Begin afresh every morning. Devotional thoughts for women.
Good morning, dear friends. Today, February 6, 2023, the topic for our devotional is entitled From Fear to Reverent Respect. The Bible reading is taken from Exodus chapter 20, verse 20. And Moses said to the people, "Do not fear, for God has come to test you, and that his fear may be before you, so that you may not sin." The first time I experienced an earthquake, I was about 12 years old and just beginning middle school. It was complete chaos. Car horns were sounding, people were shouting, younger children were crying. I ran home, which was about 4 miles away. Along the way, I saw people coming out of their houses in pajamas, mothers looking for their children, and some of these people were saying that the world was coming to an end. Others said that this was a divine punishment. I finally found my mother. I hugged her and I asked, "Why is the ground shaking?" My dear mother said with a solemn voice, "God is speaking to us loudly today." The Israelites, during their 400 years of slavery, had learned to obey under the threat of whips. So they adopted the idea of punishment from the gods. Their understanding of God was clouded by their past. God needed to speak to them in the only language they understood, one that was of discipline and fear, until they were ready to listen to God's tender and loving voice. On Mount Sinai, God manifested himself to them in the midst of thunder, lightning, smoke, and the sound of trumpets. His purpose was to impress their minds with the concept of God's majesty and power. They were filled with fear, but Moses calmed them by telling them that God wanted to plant his fear in their hearts. What is the difference between ordinary fear and the reverent respect of the fear of God? Hebrews chapter 12, verse 18 to 29 explains the Mount Sinai account and illustrates the difference between trembling and being scared and the fear of God that leads us to revere him. The innocent explanation of my mother did not motivate me to reverence God, but rather to be afraid of him. Genuine fear of God that is manifested by respect and obedience has great benefits: intimate communion and trust. In other words, the fear of God is recognition of his holiness and his power. It is to respect him, honor him, and reverence his name. All of these are elements of worship. To fear God is to worship him. As with the Israelites, our first encounter with God may have been filled with fear, but as our friendship with God deepens and grows, the fear turns to respect. Today, come close to God in worship with reverence, respect, and holy fear.